What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I have a different kind of video for you today. I got a YZ250 I steel frame, one of my favorites, in BINS. So I'm going to show you guys the state of things on that build. We're going to talk about the theme of that build. I'm going to show you guys how I break down and partition different subsets of a said build: brakes, suspension, engine, chassis, things like that. And then we're also going to talk about budget because I brought this on for a customer. Thank you, Robert. You are amazing. Totally going to transform this I for you. You're going to have a bike that is way cooler than a brand new bike and has a lot of the modern technology on it. So guys, let's check this thing out. Now, before we begin, you guys may have noticed we are not in the actual shop today. We are in the home shop that I used to run the YouTube channel out of. I miss this place. There's still a lot of cool stuff in here, none of which will actually fit in the shop Tony and I are running MX Skill Shack out of. But yeah, these will all make their way in. Eventually, as bikes shuffle out, these will shuffle in. Of course, we got the old RM Army here. Picked the daughter up, a DRZ70. Way too big for her. Couldn't resist the Dirt Bike Mag CR500. This is our specimen for today. The 89 RM250. Haven't done a damn thing with it. And then I've been quietly building this for myself. I haven't shown it to you guys at all on YouTube. So expect a cool reveal. This is a 1997 RM250. And then, of course, we got some stuff in the boneyard over there, too. So, different video today, man. The place is really falling apart since I've been gone. No compressor. Hex lights have died. Just kind of a cluttery mess. It's a shell of what it used to be, but I got some work to do. Let's go ahead and get into all these freaking bins here. Some organizing I've done for the sake of showing you guys some stuff in the video. And then we have this kind of turd of a YZ250 engine, but it's all there. Now let's tear into it. So I guess we'll start with a theme. Now, my boy Robert has a vision, right? I'm here to fill in the blanks and do it mXrevival style. So as you can see, he's a fan of the retro. We got the purple and pink. I'll be dreaming up a new set of decals. He already previously purchased a Revolution kit from my website. Thank you very much, dude. That's basically a completely different body style for the 02 to 21 YZ, where you get a new tank and all kinds of cool stuff. So we'll be using that. As you can see, he's got some components already. So we're going to go through all the different subsets, like I mentioned: body, controls, wheels, engine, chassis, and everything. I'm going to show you how I make parts lists, kind of ID what I do need, what I don't need. We're going to get into all of the copious amounts of steel that are in dirt bike builds that need to be refinished, because for me, and especially lately, I've been really geeking out on the chassis stuff. I've been a fan of it, but I've kind of started to go maybe overboard. But for me, the chassis hardware is a make or break for a bike build. Now, like I said, Robert already has some cool components. He got his suspension done by somebody already. Got some Cerakote going on. It looks like some nice anodizing on those tubes. But that's the old suspension, right? And I had these leftover 16 YZ clamps. So we're going to do a triple S swap on it and get some different suspension. We can drop a shock right into those steel frames. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. Like I said, I've done some organizing here. There's his old clamps, the new ones. Let's go ahead and get into this list I made, how we break down each part of the bike and talk about how to find what you do need, what you don't need, and then how you get all the steel. There's a lot of steel. You'll start doing this stuff and you'll forget something. There's a lot of steel in the engine. Let's get into it. I think I've said let's get into it like 7 times already, but anyways, so here are my notes, and these are chassis only for now. I kind of consider the engine its own animal, and therefore it gets its own list. So the way I break it down: controls and bars, front brake and triple clamps, suspension, frame, sub, and swinger, so like main frames, wheels, like I said, engine's its own category. We'll get into that next. Body and seat, rear brakes, exhaust, hardware, that's all the steel. And that's sort of how I partition so that I can close my eyes and envision, as well as take note of some of the brand new products that are already here and start building the list. So, you know, you get better with this as time goes on. You miss less stuff. If you miss anything, it's all good. You just make another order. So anyways, we'll start with the controls and bars, and then we'll kind of focus on some of the braking systems for a specific reason, and I'm not going to take you guys through the whole list because I'll bore you to death. But yeah, so controls and bars. So we come down here, and as we can see, Robert already has some stuff, right? He's got some brand new bars. So if that's the bend he likes, I'm not going to spend his hard-earned money on that. Those are brand new. They don't have any scrapes in them. They're not used. They don't have any like tie-down marks. He's got grips. He obviously has a preference for grips. And he has a nice Pro Taper clutch setup. So for me, now I would close my eyes. I would think about what's missing after I've organized all these bins. And so that's already been done. I can already tell you guys what I would envision, right? So in my head, close my eyes. I picture the bars. I picture this clutch setup on the bars. I know the bars have grips on them in this little vision I'm having, right? I go, what's missing? I go, okay, the triple clamps that we're going to use, I don't have bar mounts. So I want to get a Ride Engineering one-piece bar mount for those 16 clamps. That's for the triple S suspension, right? Then I close my eyes and I go, okay, what's over here? Grips there. I've got safety wire for the grip. Braking system. Okay, he's got a master cylinder, right on. Well, I need to rebuild that, so that goes on the brake list. But I also need to get a lever, it would be black, that matches this side, right? I want to be cognizant of colors that are happening, right? So we got a black clutch setup here. I need to make sure I have a black lever in the brake master cylinder. Then I go into, okay, the throttle assembly, right? Okay, cool, he's got a good rubber cover for his throttle housing. Awesome. I need one of those rubber covers for the pivot point from the brake master cylinder and the lever. That would go, for example, wherever the hell that is, right here, little OEM boot. So all that stuff goes on the list, right? And so you just want to take your time and really think about what it is. Like I said, just chill out, close your eyes, enjoy yourself, have fun. That's where the vision starts to take a hold of you when you're doing a build, at least for me. And then so here are my notes, right? We just talked about it. I need one-piece bar mounts for those, because all I had was the lowers. Bought these used with the intent to help somebody out with them someday. So then once we have our bar mounts, I know that I'll have hardware in those, like the actual bolts, any hardware as we go that I don't have that's M6 or M8 will get out of a Bolt Motorcycle Hardware Pro Pack. I need to check the bearings in the stem for a match. So for example, he has brand new bearings in his frame already. And we'll get to this sort of a not so awesome frame job in a minute. But you can see he's got brand new bearings, or maybe you can't tell, but he had brand new bearings, brand new races. So if those are the same as this 2016 setup, that's just a note for me to check. I won't buy him brand new bearings if he already has them, right? Out of that clutch perch he has, I know I need a cable. Again, I'm envisioning in my head my hands on the controls and what I'm grabbing, what I'm adjusting, you know, all those sorts of things. Throttle cable. I know he doesn't have a clutch cable. Never found a throttle cable. That would go into the control section. Throttle tube. He had a weird one. Brake lever, black. Bar pad, because he has some blue one somewhere or other, which I know isn't going to go with the build, right? So as you can see, it's sort of a process of envisioning, right? If you get a bunch of bins and a bunch of stuff that you don't really have bearings on yet, you break it into sections, you envision the process, you figure out what you need, and you just do your best. I added grips on here too because, say for the sake of the color scheme, we don't like gray. Maybe I'll get some black ones from my boy Jason at Phoenix. Now, as far as the bins go, I've used them to break things up in relation more or less to this list here, right? The suspension, the brakes, the this, the that. For example, this bin here, it's stuff that I'm going to go ahead and get braced up. For example, his radiators, which are in fantastic shape for their age. Send these to ICW, right? Get the clamps that go to his old suspension coated anyways, because we might put this stuff on his 06 YZ250. Stuff I got to push bearings out of. Anything rubber, radiator hoses, frame grommets, air boot that I'm going to need to clean, ECU, wiring, all that stuff is going to need to be degunked. Check the wiring for chips, frays, what have you in the insulation. Then there's always a bin of old crap. Basically, one of the bins ends up being stuff that I'm not going to use. His old brake lines that I pulled apart. This pipe's pretty beat up. It's still good, but it's not going to work on a high-end build. Air box, I need the sides. But all these junky things in here that are kind of too beat up to use, for example, they serve as a reminder for things I need to get when I make my list. And all of those things have made it onto this list. In fact, anything with an X on it, you guys can see how I check the boxes. That means it's already been put into a cart. I started with OEM orders, then I'll move on to aftermarket, then I'll move on to specific aftermarket, like I'll get all the bearings and stuff from one company. that would be another bunch of checks off my list. Once that's done, I have all my stuff. All right, so I mentioned to you guys earlier that Robert already has had some stuff done. Didn't want to spend money on things he already had powder coated or whatever. I'm not really sure what's going on with this. It's really chalky. I got it with a bunch of dings in it. Whoever did the prep could have done a better job. Robert, if it's you, I'm not making fun of you. It's all good, dude. I just, it's going to be better this time around. But the frame has, let's see, I think the rails were kind of burned up on the bottom. Get the camera in there, doing the one-handed wonder, but obviously that's not going to work. So we'll knock the bearing races out of the neck up there. Go ahead and get this done by fast blast and coat. We've got the subframe, which is in pretty dang good shape. It does have some boot rub where it's getting a little thin here, where your leg rubs. Normally you'd see like some welds in this area, I believe, or at least a more square. Yeah, like there's the edge of a weld at the bottom. You can see it a little more prevalent there underneath where their boot wouldn't hit, but still looks straight. It's good enough to use. And then we've got the swing arm here. Now, looks pretty cool. It was in the bins. It got a little beat up like the main frame, but the thing that really bothered me about this, two things. Those steel plates on the end, they just kind of got shot over with whatever kind of coating this is. So those will come off, go into the steel hardware stuff, and then the prep up here for the bearings. So the bearings in there before have clearly failed. They became rusty and maybe somewhat seized, but this just got taped off and sprayed. So we'll go ahead and rectify that, get this reshot as well. And in regards to bearings and such for the swing arm, the main frame, all that, like I said, there are already some parts here. So I've got brand new linkage rebuild kits. I've got brand new swing arm rebuild kits that Robert already bought. So that gets factored into the list, right? I don't need those things. They're not on the list. Again, here's some more brand new stuff that Robert already dropped his hard-earned money on. We've got a set of Tusk impact wheels. Now, for me, for a build, I'm going to need to spice these up. I need to make them look a certain way. We're going to need to upgrade the brakes a little bit, but I'll reuse what I can, right? If I can reuse the tires and make them look clean because they are brand new, then I will. We're going to go ahead and swap those rims out. You'll see soon. It's got a brand new pipe. I'll go ahead and use that. Obviously, it's in perfect condition. I'll spice it up though. We'll get rid of that decal and do something special for Robert. And so I've shown you guys the list and I've shown you the partitions and the bins, and I'm going to go do a deep dive on the brakes real quick just to sort of put that in motion one more time pertaining specifically to the steel. If you guys were to buy this stuff brand new, it would probably cost, if you can get it on older bikes, sometimes you can't, I don't know, $1,000 for all this OEM stuff. You got steel there in the exhaust pipe hanger. You got steel here. Newer Hondas would be aluminum, but these are the three inserts on either side of the radiators where they mount to the frame. Foot peg pins, engine mounts. One of the engine mounts was missing, so that's on my list. Have no idea where it is. Subframe, uppers and lowers, upper head stays, all the steel clips that go into the airbox, the captive hardware for your rear fender and stuff. All these little washers that hold the chain slider onto the swing arm, your little brake pin in the back for your master cylinder. All this stuff, it really, really adds up. Back in the day, on the old clamps, the nut, which is now aluminum on the more modern stuff, would have been steel. So that'd be something I need to take into consideration. Of course, all the pinch bolts for the 16 clamps, all the pinch bolts for his old O2 stuff. And then I even get into these brand new linkage repair kits, all the bearings, because they have these steel collars in them that are just raw. So you put these in and they rust pretty quickly. So I will go ahead and repair all this with fresh zinc, probably in a combination of colors. And then these will be protected. And then when you see them on the bike, you won't know why it's extra cool, but these will be, say, black. Or if they're silver and shiny, they stick out. And it's kind of one of those subtle things, right, that no one's doing. So do it. Got the seat brackets. There's just an endless amount of steel in these bikes. There's the O2 clamp set. They got steel shim washers, top washer, nut, spanner, all steel. Even stuff like this, you can repair this. The zinc plating won't do anything to the rubber, but it will fix up the visible parts of that strap. So the part that hooks to your frame and your gas tank. Now to make sure, either A, parts list, I have everything I need for, let's just use the brakes as an example, or I have all the steel that I need because I'm not going to spend $1,500 of Robert's money on steel, especially when I have everything I need here technically. Guys, so the brakes, we'll go ahead and start with the steel for the zinc pile. This is the plunger that goes inside the rear master cylinder. This thing, you can't get it oftentimes without this piece, the jam nut here, the clevis, and sometimes they even make you buy the pin and the washer that goes on the back of the pin as an assembly, right? And sometimes you can't get that without the master cylinder too, which is now obsolete. So anyways, brakes, there's a lot of steel in the brakes. Plunger, all these pins that the calipers hang on to the brackets with, right? Those pins would go here, caliper slides in and out on it. You get the point. There's a lot of steel. Don't even get me started on the engine. It's the same boat. So in this case, to make my list and get all the steel, I would deconstruct the front braking system, right? I would keep the things that I'm going to reuse and vapor blast and rebuild. We'll get rebuild kits for these, but the rubber diaphragm that goes into the master cylinder here, we'd bag that up somewhere nice and clean. I know that the rebuild kits are going to come with brand new seals for these pistons, and I know they're going to come with brand new springs. That's set aside though, because I'm going to need to reuse those. And then I figure out what I need, right? I got the rear set over here. I got the front set over here. I go, okay, what do I need? First of all, I need new caliper pistons. Those are smoked. That'll come in a rebuild kit. Then I'll get the caliper rebuild kit. That will come with the seals. All this stuff would go on the list. I know I need to get new sight glass so I can rebuild that after these get coated. I think that's the plan for these. Probably some Cerakote concrete, kind of addicted. But this also lets me know what's worn out in terms of the steel parts, right? So when these brake pad retaining pins would go in to hold your brake pads in place, I think that's the rear, can't remember, yeah, that's the front. So this one, they're so cheap, just buy new ones, but because it's steel, come on, focus, you could zinc that, right? I could put that over here and get it redone. This one, on the other hand, hammered. It's got grooves in it and it's rusty. You got grooves from where the pads were riding. So that will tell me I need a part for the list. Now, when I get those new steel parts, if they don't look good or if I want to change the color, then I can add them in here. For example, I'm going to have to wait on that other engine mounting bolt before I get this redone, and that way it will match. So they're not two different bolts, one OEM and then one refinished. Doing this will also show me what's missing. For example, these little spring pads that go inside of the rear caliper bracket here, there you are, and the one that goes into the caliper itself here in the back, and this is what your brake pads ride against. Well, those weren't in the front, so I needed to add those to the list. Sometimes you can't find those for these old bikes. You got to check out newer bikes, or just hope you have something saved from before. So something that's missing goes on the list. Something that's destroyed in steel, get it and take it to zinc. Either way, if something's missing or if something's steel, like I said, we're doing a quick deep dive on here. We know what we need to do. We can add it to the zinc pile when the new parts come in, or we can add it to the list so we can buy it. And so rounding out those subsets on the list, like I said, the engine's a different category. Once we get into the engine, we'll start to pull it apart, inspect the condition of things. You'll want to close your eyes again, think about what you might need to fix. You might need to get a fat head cylinder head. We'll definitely get a Bolt Motorcycle hardware engine fastener kit. So we have all new bolts. Probably going to want to get some covers coated. Maybe vapor blast the bottom, we'll see. You need all kinds of stuff. Kickstarter, spring, seal, maybe the ball. Also, this right here as an example, the knuckle, that's steel, this is aluminum, so this will need to come off and go into the zinc pile. Moving to the other side, these older engines have steel bushings in the back of the cases where they ride against the swing arm. I'll need to pop those out and get those plated as well. Other stuff you don't want to buy, like the studs, these will go into the steel pile. Bolt Motorcycle Hardware Pro Pack, engine fastener kit will come with new base nuts, so that's taken care of. Inside here, the clutch arm, where you pull your clutch cable and it actuates your clutch, that's a piece of steel, usually pretty rusty from being back here. I'm going to refinish that too, just stuff you don't want to buy over and over. But anyways, that's why the engine ends up being kind of its own list, its own animal, because there are things like checking the transmission, is it damaged? Rebuilding the crank, can you? Do you need to refinish the cylinder, etc. The list for the engine can be every bit as long as the list for the entire chassis, to be honest. Now guys, I hope this wasn't too boring for you. I try to keep it interesting. It's kind of more of a behind the scenes look at how things get started, especially if you have a basket case. You're on Marketplace, ended up with something like this in BINS, a barn find. In my case, thankfully there's some new components, but I hope this helps you. Hope this helps you maybe stay organized and get through your build a little bit more easily, a little bit more fluidly. For me, I especially enjoy the whole closing your eyes part and envisioning it. I think if you can do that, you can do anything. Dirt bikes, business, whatever it might be. You can dream it up, you can have it, it can become real. At any rate, this is also sort of a fill-in video. If you guys watched RM250 build and giveaway, the 06 we're doing, over the top $25,000 build, you can enter for $100 on mXrevival.com. And at the end of that video, I told you I'd probably have a gap where I couldn't film another RM video, and therefore I would probably highlight this YZ, especially because you guys get to see it at the beginning. That way I can do a reveal video at the very end. We can do before and after shots of all these components, because most likely I won't be able to capture this entire build, but at least we have a place where we started, right? So it can be very exciting at the end. I'll be able to show those shots from today in that end video. It'll be pretty cool. Now, if we're talking about budgets, there are a lot of mixed feelings and opinions on this. Robert's budget is 10 grand. I can't do this for 10 grand. I told him I'd try. I told him be prepared for 15, because even 15 grand is not really enough money to do this the right way to an old steel frame bike. You can definitely get some cool stuff, and you can definitely slap it on your bike, maybe do an engine rebuild and some other things, but to do it a certain way, which is, I guess we'll say, the way I've worked up to and put out a product that not only is Robert going to be so stoked on, but something I can also be proud of to build for him. Usually it takes closer to 25. So we're going to use some of the parts he already has. I'm going to do some tricks like refinishing all of his steel to save a couple grand there. We do need to buy suspension. That's probably going to be, I don't know, I located him a Triple S shock for 80 bucks, which is a steal. Usually they're a couple hundred. Person doesn't know what they have. So I'll get that. I'll get him some forks. That'll be, let's just call it 800 bucks on the low side. Getting that suspension done could be another 2,500. Obviously, I'm going to be smart with his money, use my labor smart as well. But if you think about it, guys, would you rather have a $10,000 2023, 2024 CRF 450R or something like that, and it'd be stock, which would be amazing, or would you rather have a steel frame YZ, fully built, with all the bells and whistles, the pipes, fresh rebuild, probably some sort of a trick carburetor, cylinder head, the plastics, the graphics, the custom seat cover with the logos in it, the wheels that are going to get done a certain way, just all the stuff, right? So you got this super flexible steel frame YZ, and then you have the most modern Triple S 2024 suspension on it. Would you rather have that? Sure, you still have a Kickstarter, but would you rather have that, or would you rather have a bike that's bone stock that will be great? 450s are amazing, third gear all day, and then you still have to modify it, right? You still need your pipe. That's 1,600 bucks, and so on and so forth. You're going to hit 15 anyways, is my point. Just some food for thought when it comes to budgets, guys. You're going to end up at 15 no matter what. If you go buy a factory edition, you're going to pretty much be there already. And don't get me wrong, 15 grand is a nice chunk of change. It's a good amount of money, so I'm certainly not downplaying that by any means. So anyways, guys, I hope this video helped you. I really wanted to share the condition of this bike when I got it with you. Stay tuned. If I can slip a video in for this build, like a progress video in the middle before the ender and the before and after, then I absolutely will, especially if I have the opportunity to show you guys something unique. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you get a chance, check out mxrevival.com, enter in the 06 RM250 build, basically building my dream bike that was going to be for me that I decided to finish up for you guys. So it's going to be very special, and I'm going to miss it. Also, if you get a chance, check out mxskillshack.com. Tony and I are doing a lot of how-to step-by-step engine rebuilds, things of that nature, how to build a transmission, how to install the transmission, how to get your crank rebuilt, how to install the crank, so on and so forth from the ground up. You can also win every bike we build over there. Signing off, if you guys need anything from me, you have any questions, things that may have inspired some thought in this video, go ahead and drop them below. Tag a buddy if you think this is useful, and definitely get at me if you have a budget in mind and you would like a bike built, because I would love to help you with that. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.